So I recently just fell down the K-pop rabbit hole. So so that's been a demon that I've been trying to quell recently because it's the first thing that I've actually let myself get into because I have one of those personalities that if I really like something, I'll obsess over it. It will become a hyperfixation, obviously. I'm Kaike. I'm on everything from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, on everything but TikTok. I am Kaia K with two Y's, so it's Kaia Kayy. But on TikTok, it is Kaia Kays. That is the only place it's different. So my dad introduced me to Lord of the Rings. He read the Hobbit books to me, and then he showed me the Rankin and Bass animated Hobbit, and then he read me the Lord of the Rings. We went and saw the movies, and then I started reading the books on my own. I mean, initially when I was little, it was I just really liked the animated like Hobbit movies, and then when we when we went and saw the movie, what really inspired me to read the books on my own was was Orlando Bloom as Legolas. Because after we saw the movies, I just fell in love with him, and I was like, I want to read more about him. Oh God. Probably the attention to detail that Tolkien puts into it, because I know that a lot of fantasy books now is just really dialogue heavy. There's not a whole lot of world building. And like whenever you try and picture a world in your head, it's just kind of very basic. Whereas with Tolkien, like he gives you all the Lego blocks and helps you build it in your head. Definitely, probably like outside of like the big like outside of the big five, probably the Lost Tales. I mean, the Silmarillion's always my favorite, but outside of the basic answers, probably the Lost Tales. Yeah, so probably the first one that I had was when you like I think it's chapter 3 in the Fellowship where they meet where the three hobbits meet the elves and Gildor Ungoliant uh, introduces who he is. Once you learn about like the lineage of the elves and the different houses of like, Finarfin, Finwë, yada yada yada, and when Gildor introduces himself, what does he say? I think he's of the House of Finwë or Finarfin, and it's just like, well, Galadriel is also of that house. So could they somehow be related? Are they somehow cousins? Because the elves in those houses are related in some certain way. So it's just like, are they? Or is it just by like, is it by marriage? Is he like, a cousin? Like the Lays of Valerian, where it's that one chapter in the Silmarillion where Tolkien is just explaining the map. And it's like all these landmarks, and I'm just like, oh my God, another fucking mountain. Oh, Baron of Luthien. Yeah, they're definitely my favorite. Probably Feanor, the House of Feanor and his sons. Yeah. Very complex, very chaotic. I mean, I'm gonna say it what everyone says, either like, Maedhros or Maglor, because even though like, all the shit that happened to them and the way that their brothers turned out, those are the two that still turned out decent. And of course it's like the two oldest ones, because it always is. I would say probably either Eowyn or Galadriel. I would say Sam. Sam definitely either Sam or Mary, because they both did things that had I been like 3 feet tall, I probably would have second guessed myself before just stabbing this giant ring wraith in the back with this knife that I don't know if it's going to do anything or not. I would say, I just made a video about this too. I would say Farmer Maggot. I think he deserved more recognition. Yeah, probably Quentin. Yeah, I really like the just the sound of Elvish and the way the script looks is just so pretty. Probably the Ring of Fatahir. Yeah, I think the lore behind that is yeah, the lore just the lore behind it is like I don't want to say heavy, but really I guess important. Oh, elf. Yeah, easy answer. That's a good point. I've never thought of that. I'm not sure. Ooh, I don't know. I'd have to go through like the index of the chapters and think about that. I would say probably, oh God, that's such a hard one. Probably either Nienna or Tolkas. Oh, Two Towers. Two Towers. No, I would say probably really any scene with Lee Pace in it playing Thranduil. Um, I really do like their whole adventure in Mirkwood. I do wish it was more true to the book, but obviously they couldn't have stayed there for 2 weeks. Um, but yeah, it's probably any scene with Lee Pace since I can't think of any scene that translates really well lore-wise. Oh God, it would be the scene where they're up in the tree, like after they escape Goblin Town, and instead of Azog in the movie at all, it would be the way that it is in the books with like the wolves surrounding them, and then the goblins coming out and making it more like tense and dramatic. Ooh. I mean, I'm always drinking tea, so tea is definitely one of them. Probably like Pop Tarts. And in some of the Did You Know videos that I've made, I have been eating Pop Tarts while I've been watching the movies. So yeah, I'd probably say those. The very first thing that I ever had in my collection were the extended edition DVDs because those were my dad's, and so he gave them to me. And then the first thing that was my own, God, what was the first thing that was my own? I would say probably it was one of the Lord of the Rings Pez dispenser sets. Yeah, so that was probably the first thing in my collection. That was mine. That wasn't, my dad's. So I recently just fell down the K-pop rabbit hole. So so that's been a demon that I've been trying to quell recently because it's the first thing that I've actually let myself get into because I have one of those personalities that if I really like something, I'll obsess over it. It will become a hyperfixation, obviously. And um it's a very like it can turn into a very expensive hobby very quickly. So I got to be very careful with it. And I've recently let myself do that with K-pop. And it's already turning into a problem. I think it was the K-pop Demon Hunters movie. But the thing that got me into it was Miranda or ex Libershmere on Instagram. She made videos explaining K-pop with the Lord of the Rings, and I was like, I want to check it out. And then I look up like one of the groups that she talks about on TikTok, and then I start to see this thing called like the Felix effect, and Felix is a member of Stray Kids. And after that, my FYP was just bombarded with K-pop and Stray Kids. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I'll listen to them. Oh, my Sauron cosplay. So the first time that I cosplayed as like my Sauron, it was just me piecing together stuff that I had bought. So it didn't really take that long. The concept of it in my head probably took about like a month. But then once I started actually making pieces for it and buying nicer looking stuff for it and making the props for it, it took probably about just 6 months. Really, it was I was watching the Lord of the Rings movies with my son, and like every so often, it would be like a little hee hee ha ha. I would turn to him and be like, "Hey, did you know XYZ?" And him being 5, he he could not give a care about what I was saying to him. So I was like, you know what? This would make a good TikTok. And so then I made a TikTok of it, and it just blew up from there. And then I just kept it going. All the friends that I've made. Like some of the friends that I've made in the Tolkien Talk community are some of the best, most supportive and genuine people I've ever met. So I'm very happy that I decided to start making Tolkien content so that I was able to meet them and become friends with them. I like this question because recently, it's been the same one where I would ask him if Sauron had a partner the way I'll say had Eowyn, would he still have fallen to Melkor the way he did, or would he have been able to turn back with the help of his partner and ask for forgiveness and still harbor the anger that's inside of him, but not fall to darkness. In Middle Earth? Oh God. Oh God. I have so many of them. Probably Frodo's importance to the story. That's definitely my Roman Empire that I can't stop thinking about because even though like there are a lot of people who were just like, oh, Sam could have done what Frodo did, or Tom Bombadil could have done what Frodo did. It's like, no, no. And it's very, I don't want to say time consuming. It's you could definitely fall down the rabbit hole of thinking of what made Frodo into the person he was to where he was the only one that would be able to do it. So that's definitely probably the other Roman Empire that I have. Don't feel pressured into reading the books if you feel like they're too much for you, or if you feel like you aren't ready to tackle them. Uh, if you do want to try the books, but you're worried that the reading itself is going to be boring, try audiobooks. But if you can't get into the books but really like the movies or the show, that's perfectly fine. Like there's nothing wrong with being a fan of Tolkien through just the visual media.